What's up YouTube? This is Simply Lucky coming at you with my Magic deck profile today. This deck is standard legal from Shadows over Innistrad and forward, so this deck is still pretty good for standard for a long time before it gets rotated out. So the deck today is red-black vampire deck. This deck is really fun, and it pretty much revolves around madness, which means discarding and getting additional effects when the card is discarded. So, hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into the profile. So we play one Voldaren Parish. She is really good because you can discard it and then cast it in for only 3 madness, which is pretty good for a 3/3 flyer. But what's really good about her is her flip effect. You pretty much sacrifice 3 creatures, 3 other creatures, then she flips into a 6/5 flyer. When this creature transforms, your opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. So he has to sack 3 creatures when this thing is flipped. So that's pretty good. So of course it is just a 1-of because, you know, it can clog. But having that discard for 3 is pretty good, which can happen quite a bit. So that's a really good card for a 1-off. Next we play 2 Olivias, because this card is really good. You can pretty much, it's a 3/3 for 3, and it has flying, so that is pretty good right there. But its real good effect is that whenever another creature enters, you can discard, and that creature gets haste plus a 1/1 counter on it till the end of the turn. It gains haste till the end of the turn, so that 1/1 counter stays there permanently, so that's pretty good. And yeah, it's a really good card, but the problem with it is it's a legendary creature, so you cannot have more than 1 on the field at once. So that's why you don't want to play 4 or more than 4. 4 or 3. I play 2, that way it doesn't clog, and that way I can at least get 1 off if 1 gets destroyed. So it is a really good card, you know. It's a good little boss monster. So play that. Next we have, I play 2 Incorrigible Youths, because this card's really good because it can be managed in for 3, a red and 2 of anything else. So that's pretty good for a 4/3. That has haste. I play 2 Stormkick Occultists. This card is really good for 3 mana. It's a 3/2 trample. But for its madness, it's 2 mana for a 3/2 trample. So that's pretty good for 2 mana. Its other ability is whenever this card deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card. I can play the card if I can afford to pay its for its cost. So I attack with it. If it deals any type of damage, I exile the top card of my deck. If I haven't played mana that turn, then I can, and the top card's mana, I can play it. So that's kind of nice. So you know, I played 2. I mean, you know, it's not bad as a 2-of. For you know, even its original cost, 3 mana for a 3/2 trample isn't bad. But I really like it for its madness for 2 instead of 3. So that's really good. Next, we play 4 copies of Asylum Visitor. This card is really good for my deck because, well, it's for 2 mana, it's a 3/1, and its madness is for 2. So its madness cost is the same as its original cost. But what it's really good is, it says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, you draw a card and lose a life. So what that means is, if this card's on the field, and I end my turn, and my opponent has no cards in his hand, on his upkeep, before he draws, this effect will trigger because he has no cards in his hand on his turn. So I would draw a card and then pay a life. So that's really good. And also, on my turn, if I have no cards in my hand on my upkeep, I draw a card off of this, and then draw on for my normal draw phase. Now, if I have more than 1 copy of these on the field, the abilities stack. So if I have no cards in my hand and I have 2 of these, I can use this effect to draw one, lose a life, draw one, lose a life, and then draw one for my original turn. So the effects will stack in sequence, so that's kind of nice. So I play 4 of these because the issue with this deck is that it requires on discarding cards, and then you lose a hand advantage. You lose a lot of cards in your hand really quick, but this card helps you get cards back by drawing. So this card is an essential card of the deck. So you play 4. Next we play Hair of Falcon Wrath. This card's really good. For 2 mana, it's a 2/1 with the ability discard a card, transform this card. So it transforms into a 3/2 flyer for 2 mana essentially, which is pretty nice. And it is another discard outlet. So of course, you know, I play 2 of this card. This card is really good, and having 2 available is really not cloggy. It's pretty nice actually. Next, I play 2 Furyblade Vampires. For 2 mana, it's a 1/2, and it has trample. But its ability is that at the beginning of combat on your turn, I can discard a card, and this gets +3/+0. So at the beginning of combat on my turn, if I want, I can discard a card, make this a 4/2, and then use the discard ability if I discard a madness card and get another bonus effect. So this card is really good for just 2 mana creature with trample. Pretty good card. At 2, you can't go wrong. Next, I play 4 Insolent Neonate. This card is for 1 mana, it's a 1/1. It's a really good card, but its effect, what I really like, is that I can discard a card, sacrifice himself to draw. So that's kind of nice. So I can use an ability like discard a card and then use its effect for madness and then summon it and then this effect to draw. But what it's really good is that it has menace. So that means that if I attack with this creature, my opponent can only block it with 2 creatures or more. So what that means is if I attack and he has 1 creature, he can't block it with just 1. It has to be 2. So he kind of gets in, so it's kind of nice to have him. And for his discard outlet to draw, and everything's really good. So 4 of him. Next, I play 2 Avacyn's Judgment. This card is really good in this deck because everything is discard. And even if you don't discard this card, for 2 mana, it deals either 2 damage to my opponent, 2 damage to 1 creature, or 2 damage divided as I choose among creatures. So what that means is if he has 2 1/1 creatures, I can play this for 2 mana, deal 1 and 1, and get rid of both creatures with 1 card. So that's really good. Really good card. Next, this card is really good. Fiery Temper. I play 4 copies. What this card does is, for 1 mana, it deals 3 damage to target creature or player for its madness cost. Or you can pay 3 mana and have it do that for its original cost. What you usually use this card for, though, is you discard it and then you pay 1 to get that additional 3 in. But you can, of course, play the original 3 if you can't discard it, which is kind of nice. So we play 4 copies. Next, we play 4 Shocks. This card is really good for 1 mana. It deals 2 damage to target creature or player. So that's pretty good. And it's an instant for 1 mana. So it's really good. 4 copies. Next, we play 2 Lightning Axes. This card is really good for 1 mana. It can deal 5 damage to 1 target creature. But of course, you have to pay an additional cost by either discarding a card or paying 5 mana. So what you do is you use this card, discard this as an additional cost, pay 1 mana for this, 1 mana for this. I can either deal 5 damage to that creature and 3 to that, or 8 to 1 creature. So this combo is really good. But you only want to play 2 of this because this can be taxing. So 2. Next, I play 1 Burn from Within. This card's really good. It can kind of just finish the game in a field swoop. So what you do is it's 1 mana and X, so you can pretty much tap 8 mana, and this card can deal either 7 damage to your opponent directly, or 7 damage to a creature. And if that creature has indestructible, it loses indestructible, and if it dies, it gets exiled. So this card is really good to just kind of finish the game. Next, I play 1 Stentia's Banquet. This card is pretty good, more of a late game card, but it's really good. For 3 mana, sorcery, it says draw 1 card. This card deals damage to target opponent equal to the number of vampires you control. So this whole deck revolves around vampires. So for me, it's really not hard to have 3 or 4 vampires and some vampire tokens. So this card for 3 mana can deal either 3 or 4 damage to my opponent and draw 1 for 3. So that's not bad. But early game, it really is bad, but mid to late game, this card is pretty good. I play 4 Alms of the Vein. This card is kind of like the other Fiery Temper, but it's for black. It costs 1 black, your opponent loses 3 life, and you gain 3 life. So this card is really good to just burn him and gain life. And using it as to discard, or you can pay 3 for its original, but you usually use this to discard. So you get really good value for it. So 4 is a really good card. This whole deck's revolved around burning and destroying creatures. So next I have 2 enchantments I play, Call the Bloodline and Stentia's Masquerade. Now these cards are really good. This card's really good because you can discard it for madness for 3 or cast it for 3. Attacking creatures you control have first strike, so that's kind of nice. And whenever a vampire I control deals combat damage to a player, it gets a 1/1 counter on it. So for example, if I have this guy and this card on the field, I attack with this. They can't block him because you need 2 creatures to block him. So it's pretty much going in. So it deals 1, and then at the end I gain a counter. So it's a 2/2. And the next turn if it goes in, then it becomes a 3/3. And it can just keep getting bigger and bigger. So this card works on all my vampires. So if I have 2 of them that hit, they both get a counter. So this card's really good. And it has madness. Now this enchantment is pretty much like just creates Vampire Knight tokens. So what it is you pay 1 mana, discard a card, create a 1/1 black Vampire Knight creature token. And that creature has lifelink. So this helps you mass creatures, and then this deck revolves around creatures and vampires, so you know how it works. This card's really good though. And for the mana, I play 4 dual lands, Foreboding Ruins. Really good dual land for the deck. Red-black, of course, this deck's red-black, so you play 4. We play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I play 9 red mana, because this deck is more red than black, so you have more of a red. So you have 9 plus potentially 4 here, so that's 13, so that's not bad. And then we have 7 black mana, because the deck's more red than black, but you still want to have to see black, so you play 7 black. And then of course, these dual lands act as black as well, so we have essentially 11 black. And I play the 1 legendary land, Sanctum. This card is really good because it acts as a colorless mana, so it's a mana regardless. And what its other effect is, you tap it, pay 2 mana, each player draws and discards. So this helps me get through my deck and discard and then use bonus abilities because they were discarded. Like cards like this. Pretty much the whole deck is almost madness. So you're getting effects off of discarding while your opponent isn't for the most part. So the mana count is 21 mana. It's a really, really good deck. The deck is 60 cards overall. And that was the deck. So I hope you guys enjoy.